That truck isn't worth a penny. The words were delivered with absolute confidence across the showroom floor of Heritage Motors in Scottsdale, Arizona, a luxury dealership specializing in high-end classic car sales where restored muscle cars, vintage Porsches and pristine Corvettes sat under perfect lighting with six-figure price tags. The declaration came from a man named Christopher Davenport, 53 years old, owner of Heritage Motors for 18 years, wearing a custom suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary, gold Rolex on his wrist, and an expression that suggested he knew everything about classic car values and you knew nothing. He was gesturing dismissively at a vehicle that had been towed into his lot 30 minutes ago by a woman requesting an appraisal, a 1973 Chevrolet C10 pickup truck that looked like it had been abandoned in the Arizona desert for the past 20 years and discovered yesterday. The paint, what remained of it, was faded turquoise with rust consuming the rockers, bedsides and cab corners like aggressive cancer. Both front fenders had been crudely replaced with mismatched primer grey units that didn't quite align with the hood. The chrome bumper was bent, pitted, held on with visible zip ties where proper bolts had rusted away. The bed was dented, scratched and filled with what appeared to be decades of accumulated debris. All four tires were different brands, sizes and tread patterns, clearly purchased from whatever had cheap used rubber available. The interior, visible through cracked windows, showed a bench seat with tiers exposing foam, a dashboard cracked into a dozen pieces, a steering wheel wrapped in duct tape. By every objective standard Christopher used to evaluate classic trucks, this C10 was scrap metal waiting for the crusher. The woman who owned this disaster stood calmly near the truck, arms crossed, face showing no reaction to Christopher's dismissive assessment. Her name was Jordan Riley, 39 years old, owner and master builder at Riley's Custom Fabrication in Mesa, Arizona, a small three-bay shop specializing in building award-winning custom vehicles from platforms everyone else dismissed as worthless. Jordan wore work pants, a shop t-shirt stained with welding spatter, steel-toe boots, and had grease under her fingernails from finishing a chassis build that morning before loading this C10 onto her trailer. She'd brought the truck to Heritage Motors specifically because Christopher had posted on social media 2 weeks ago claiming to be Arizona's foremost expert in classic truck values and challenging anyone to bring him a vehicle he couldn't accurately appraise in under 5 minutes. Jordan had seen the post, screenshot it, and decided to test that claim. She'd expected Christopher to lowball the truck based on appearance. She hadn't expected him to be quite this dismissive. Christopher circled the C10 like a shark examining something already dead. His phone, out filming for his dealership's Instagram, 82,000 followers who enjoyed his expert appraisals and lifestyle content. Look at this. Rust everywhere. Mismatched fenders. The bed looks like it lost a fight with a sledgehammer. The interior is destroyed. And these tires? These tires should be illegal. Ma'am, I don't know what you paid for this truck or why you brought it here, but I can tell you right now, it's worth maybe $500 as a parts donor, and that's being generous. The metal alone might be worth that much if you scrapped it, but as a vehicle, worthless, not worth a single penny as anything other than scrap. He filmed the rust spots, the mismatched panels, the torn interior, his narration dripping with condescension about people who don't understand classic car values and projects that should never have been started. His assistant, a younger guy named Brandon who handled social media and customer relations, stood nearby nodding agreement, occasionally adding comments about how rough the truck looked. Jordan let Christopher finish his entire assessment, his filming, his explanation of why this truck had zero value. Then she spoke for the first time since arriving. "You're certain? Absolutely certain it's worthless?" Christopher looked at her like she'd asked if the sky was blue. "Completely certain. I've been appraising classic vehicles for 18 years. I've seen thousands of trucks. This one? Beyond saving. The rust alone would cost more to repair properly than the truck would ever be worth. You'd need to replace floor pans, rockers, cab corners, bedsides. That's $15,000 in metalwork before you even address mechanical issues. Then you'd need paint, interior, engine work, suspension, brakes. You'd be $40,000 into a truck that's worth maybe $25,000 fully restored if you're lucky. Economically impossible. Worthless." Jordan nodded slowly. And if I told you this truck is worth $250,000, you'd say I'm delusional? Christopher laughed, not politely, but genuinely amused. $250,000 for a rusted C10? Lady, I don't know who told you that, but they lied to you. The most expensive C10 I've ever seen sold for $85,000, and that was a fully customized frame-off restoration with modern everything. Your truck? It would need to be completely rebuilt from frame up to even be roadworthy, much less valuable. $250,000 is fantasy. Jordan pulled out her phone, opened a folder, showed Christopher a document. It was an insurance appraisal from a certified classic car appraiser, dated 3 weeks ago, listing 1973 Chevrolet C10 custom build with an agreed value of $255,000. Christopher looked at the document, then at Jordan, then at the truck, then back at the document. This has to be fake. There's no way this truck is worth $255,000. That appraiser is either incompetent or you paid them to lie. Jordan smiled slightly. Or you're missing something. You appraised based on appearance. You saw rust and assumed junk. You didn't ask what's under the hood. You didn't ask about the chassis. You didn't ask about the build. You just looked at rough exterior and declared it worthless. That's not expert appraisal. That's lazy assumption. Before we go further, I want to ask, where are you watching from? United States? Another country? Drop a comment. And have you ever been judged by appearance when there was so much more underneath? Let's build a community that looks deeper. Christopher's confident expression cracked slightly. Fine. Show me. Show me what makes this rusty disaster worth $250,000. Because I don't believe it. Jordan walked to the truck, popped the hood, which opened smoothly on gas struts despite looking rough, and revealed what sat in the engine bay. It wasn't a stock 1973 Chevy inline 6 or small block V8. It was a modern LS3 V8 from a Corvette, but not stock. This engine had been completely built, forged internals, ported heads, custom camshaft, upgraded valve train, titanium connecting rods, billet crankshaft. Sitting on top was a massive twin-turbo system, 2 Precision 6266 turbochargers with intercoolers, custom manifolds, professional plumbing. The engine bay was immaculate despite the rough exterior. Every wire labeled and zip-tied perfectly, every line properly routed, every component either new or professionally rebuilt. The wiring harness looked factory, but closer inspection revealed it was a complete standalone system from Holley, controlling every aspect of engine management. Jordan pointed at components while explaining. LS3 block forged everything. Twin turbos running up to 22 psi of boost, depending on tune. E85 fuel makes 1,240 horsepower to the wheels on the dyno. Tremec Magnum XL 6-speed manual transmission rated for 1,200 lb-ft of torque. Custom aluminum drive shaft. Full floating Ford 9-inch rear end with 3.70 gears and TrueTrack limited slip. Chromoly axles rated for 1,500 horsepower. The entire drivetrain is built to handle power most production cars can't touch. Christopher stared into the engine bay, his earlier confidence evaporating. Brandon had stopped filming, also staring. Jordan continued. Chassis is completely custom. I built a full Art Morrison chassis, tubular front suspension with coilovers, independent rear suspension also with coilovers, rack and pinion steering, Willwood brakes with 6-piston calipers front and 4-piston rear. The truck rides on air suspension with digital controls so I can raise or lower it. For different situations, weight distribution is 52-48 front-rear, corner-balanced professionally. Curb weight is 3,850 pounds with me in it. Power-to-weight ratio is absurd. She walked to the rear, opened the tailgate, which also operated smoothly despite looking dented and rough. Inside the bed, hidden under the debris she'd thrown in for effect, was a complete air ride system with 4 V-air compressors, a 12-gallon tank, and digital controls. Air suspension can go from 3 inches off the ground to 8 inches of travel depending on mode. I can drive low for aerodynamics or raise it for speed bumps and driveways. System cost $18,000 installed. Christopher was speechless. Jordan kept going. Interior looks rough from outside, right? Torn seat, broken dashboard, duct tape, all cosmetic covering. Watch. She opened the driver's door. The seat that looked torn was actually a cover hiding a fully custom racing seat from Recaro with integrated harness pass-throughs. She unzipped the cover, pulled it off, revealed pristine leather and Alcantara. The broken dashboard was a vinyl cover protecting a completely custom-built dash with digital gauges from Dakota Digital, a touchscreen climate control system, and integrated data acquisition. She peeled back the covers, revealed an interior that belonged in a $300,000 custom build, leather everywhere, carbon fiber accents, sound deadening, upgraded HVAC, premium audio. I cover everything to protect it from sun, dust, and theft when transporting. The interior alone cost $35,000 in materials and labor. Christopher had stopped objecting. He was doing math in his head, realizing every claim Jordan made was verifiable. Every component she described was visible. Brandon was now filming again, documenting this reversal. Jordan continued the education. Suspension and brakes cost $42,000. Drivetrain, including engine build, transmission, and rear end, cost $78,000. Chassis was $28,000. Interior, $35,000. Paint and bodywork I haven't done yet because I'm still testing and tuning, but when I do final paint, it'll be a $25,000 job with custom color, metal flake, and clear coat. Wheels and tires. I've got the final set at my shop. Custom 3-piece forged wheels, $12,000 for the set. Right now I'm running junkyard tires for testing. Total investment so far, $220,000 in parts and professional services I couldn't do myself, plus about 2,000 hours of my own labor over 3 years. Comparable builds sell for $280,000 to $350,000 depending on finish quality. Insurance appraised it at $255,000 as is, unfinished. So yeah, Christopher, this worthless truck that you said isn't worth a penny? It's worth more than most of the cars in your showroom. Christopher's face had gone from condescending confidence to genuine embarrassment. He looked at the truck differently now, seeing past the rough exterior to the engineering underneath, understanding that this was intentionally unfinished cosmetically while being finished mechanically. I was completely wrong. I apologize. I judged based on appearance without asking questions. That was unprofessional. Jordan nodded. Apology accepted. But you posted on social media that you're Arizona's foremost expert and can accurately appraise any vehicle in 5 minutes. You were wrong in under 2 minutes because you made assumptions instead of investigating. So here's what happens next. You're going to post a correction on your Instagram. You're going to explain that you misjudged this truck. That expert appraisal requires asking questions, not just looking at surface, that you learned a lesson about assumptions. And you're going to recommend that people get multiple appraisals before trusting any single opinion, including yours. Do that, and we're good. Refuse, and I'll post my own video showing how Arizona's foremost expert called a $255,000 build worthless. Christopher knew he had no choice. I'll do it. Right now. He set up his phone, recorded himself standing in front of the C10 with the hood open showing the twin-turbo LS3. This morning a woman brought me a 1973 C10 for appraisal. I looked at the rough exterior and immediately declared it worthless, not worth a penny. I was completely wrong. This truck is a $255,000 custom build with a 1,240 horsepower twin-turbo engine, full custom chassis, air ride suspension, and engineering that exceeds most supercars. I judged by appearance instead of investigation. I failed as an appraiser. The lesson? Never assume value based on cosmetics, always ask questions before declaring expertise, and respect builders who prioritize performance and engineering over pretty paint. Jordan Riley from Riley's Custom Fabrication built this masterpiece. She deserves recognition, not dismissal. I'm sorry, Jordan. He posted it immediately. Within an hour, it had 90,000 views. Within 6 hours, 400,000. Within 2 days, 3 million. News outlets picked it up. Automotive forums discussed the technical details of the build. People debated whether Christopher was genuine or just covering his mistake. Consensus, both, but at least he owned it publicly. The impact on Jordan's business was immediate and overwhelming. Her shop phone started ringing constantly. People wanted builds, consultations, appraisals, or partnerships. She received offers from TV production companies wanting to do a reality show about her builds. She declined, didn't want fame, wanted to build cars. She received calls from auction houses asking if she'd consider selling the C10. She declined. It was her personal truck, not for sale. She received invitations to car shows, magazines, podcast appearances. She accepted a few strategically, shows where she could display the truck and explain the philosophy behind building performance before cosmetics, where she could mentor young builders, where she could challenge the industry's obsession with pretty paint over proper engineering. The C10 appeared at SEMA the following year, in the unfinished state. Still rough exterior, fully built underneath. It won Most Innovative Build and Best Engineered Vehicle awards. Judges praised the honesty of showing a build in progress, of not hiding incredible engineering behind cosmetics. Thousands of people photographed it, posted about it, discussed how it challenged their assumptions about what valuable builds look like. Christopher Davenport became one of Jordan's biggest professional advocates. After the humiliation wore off and genuine respect replaced ego, he referred customers to her shop when they wanted custom builds beyond his expertise. He featured Jordan's work in Heritage Motors' social media, always crediting her properly, never trying to claim association beyond honest referral. They developed a professional relationship built on mutual benefit. Christopher dealt in finished, pristine classics for people who wanted turnkey vehicles. Jordan built custom projects for people who valued engineering and performance. Different markets, different approaches, but room for both. Christopher kept the apology video posted permanently, occasionally sharing it again with commentary about lessons learned. His followers, some of whom initially mocked him for being wrong, eventually respected the humility more than they would have respected doubling down on error. The 1973 C10 that wasn't worth a penny became famous as the $250,000 sleeper, a truck that proved value. Isn't determined by paint, that engineering matters more than appearance, that assumptions are dangerous when making judgments about anything. Jordan eventually finished the truck cosmetically 2 years later, not because she needed to prove anything, but because she wanted to complete the vision. The final paint was a modern interpretation of the original turquoise, but with deep metallic flake and 12 coats of clear, executed so perfectly it looked liquid. The final reveal at a car show drew crowds so large, security had to manage lines of people waiting to see it. The truck was appraised again after completion, $320,000, justified by the combination of engineering excellence, show-quality finish, and the story behind it. Jordan still drives it regularly, to shows, to the grocery store, to demonstrate that valuable vehicles aren't garage queens. She gets stopped constantly, asked questions, challenged to races. She declines. The truck is too valuable to risk, but mostly admired. The technical details of Jordan's build process became teaching material in trade schools and engineering programs. Her approach, build the mechanical foundation first, test thoroughly, refine before finishing cosmetically, challenged the traditional restoration approach of making things pretty first, then hoping they work. Students learned about prioritization, about validating engineering decisions before committing to aesthetics, about the value of patience. Several graduates started their own shops, using Jordan's philosophy, creating a new generation of builders who valued substance over surface. The industry slowly shifted. More builds appeared at shows in unfinished states, with builders proudly displaying raw chassis work, exposed fabrication, unpainted but perfected engineering. Judges created new award categories for Best Unfinished Build and Most Innovative Engineering, specifically to recognize this approach. Jordan's C10 had inadvertently started a movement. Christopher's dealership adapted too. He started offering appraisal services that required documentation, research, and investigation beyond visual inspection. He partnered with technical experts for complex builds, referring to specialists like Jordan when vehicles exceeded his expertise. He became genuinely better at his job, more thorough, more humble, more accurate. His business grew because customers trusted him to admit when he didn't know something, rather than pretending universal expertise. The incident with Jordan's truck became Heritage Motors' defining moment. Not the mistake, but the recovery. How Christopher handled being publicly wrong mattered more than being right initially. People respected growth, The story became automotive folklore. Expert appraiser declares $250,000 truck worthless based on appearance, gets educated on live video, learns humility publicly. It was shared in contexts beyond automotive. Business schools used it to teach about cognitive bias and the dangers of first impressions. Leadership seminars used it to discuss owning mistakes gracefully. Philosophy classes used it to explore the gap between appearance and reality. Jordan never sought this kind of attention, but accepted the platform it created. She used every interview, every feature, every appearance to push the same messages. Value skill over appearance, never stop learning, admit when you're wrong, build things that matter regardless of what others think. So one final time, where are you watching from? And what's your story of being misjudged? When did someone declare you or your work worthless based on surface without understanding depth? Drop it in the comments. Because Jordan Riley proved that pennies can be worth fortunes if you look past the surface, that experts who assume know nothing, that the roughest-looking truck in the lot might be the most valuable thing there. Let's build a community that values depth over appearance. Together.